Alright, so let's go over some of my favorite plugins in After Effects. Alright, so the first plugin is one of my all-time favorite plugins, and it is the FX Console plugin. So let's say if I have a shape like this, for example, let's center it, and then I want to add an effect to it. Instead of going all the way to effects and presets, let's say I want to add the deep glow effect, type in deep glow, add it onto my shape, and then have the effect. Instead, all I need to do is just go over, press on my shape layer, or I can press over here and then just press Control Space, and then just like that I have like this toolbar or prompt where I can just write whatever effect I want. So let's say I want to add the deep glow, it'll show you here, and then in the presets it'll show you any effects that you created yourself, so any preset that you created yourself. So let's say I want to have a deep glow effect, press on it, and just like that I have it. I can also, let's say, go over here as well, just press Control Space, and then again type in whatever I want. I want to add a CC burn film effect, and then I just go and increase the burn, and so I have something like this. And yeah, it's very easy. All you have to do is press Control Space, and you can add any effect you want. And so you don't need to waste time going all the way up here to the effect panel and then search your effects and press on it and then drag it onto your layer and so on. So the second plugin is the bouncer plugin, and so this plugin is probably one of the best plugins, especially if you're doing UI edits, because let me show you real quick. So let's say I go over here, let's create like this circle, and then again let me center it. And so if I, let's say, have it start over here and I wanted to go all the way, go like, let's say 10 frames, go all the way to the right, just like that. So if I want it to bounce, all I need to do is highlight the keyframes and then make sure position is selected, and I want it to overshoot, and then I just highlight the keyframes and then press bounce it, and then just like that it adds like this bouncing animation. And you can also make it more intense. You have all of these parameters that you can adjust. So let's say, first of all, you can make it more intense if I of course, make the keyframes closer to each other, so that it's moving really fast. So the bounce effect is going to be more intense, just like that. And then I can also go over here, press, and then let's say we want the amplitude, which is how strong it's going to bounce. Let's decrease it to halfway, so around 25. So if I do this, it won't be as intense. So that's not bad. Then I can also go here and be 100, and so yeah, you can see it exits the screen just about and then comes back in. And yeah, I can also change the frequency. So if I go here, let's change this back to 30, and then the frequency, make it 4, so that's how many times it's basically gonna bounce back. So you see it kind of jitters. And then I can also go here to decay and then maybe make it 7, so you can see what it does. I'll turn this back to 2. Decay is basically how long it lasts. So the higher the number, the less it's gonna last. It's gonna stop bouncing real quick. So if, let's say if I put it at 1 and I, let's say, increase this to 40, let's see what it looks like now. Yeah, you see, so it keeps going. And then if I go back here and change this to 7 or 8, it quickly bounces and then goes back to being not moving. If you're doing UI edits, this is a must need. Basically adds the bounce expression for you instead of writing it yourself and you keep copy and pasting it onto your expression section. And yeah, it's basically free, so why would you not get it? So the third plugin is the flow plugin. This is also one of the most famous plugins on After Effects, and so it just basically lets you add a specific graph, like a value graph or a speed graph, to your keyframes by just highlighting all of them and then just pressing the button here, apply, instead of going to each, let's say, layer and highlighting, going to each keyframe and then changing the graph for every single layer. You can just do it once by highlighting it over here. So for example, let's say again I have, let's say, a circle over here, so something like this. So let's say I wanted to add a specific graph to it. So what I can do is I go here to the, this is basically a value graph. So I want it to start fast, so kind of maybe something like this, and then so start fast and then slowly it will slow down. So all I have to do is fix the graph and then just highlight all my keyframes, then just press apply, and then just like that it creates this value graph. And so this is basically, again, instead of just me going in here, but let's say if I change it, if I change something like this, highlight all my keyframes, press apply, go back in my graph editor so you can see how it applied that graph to all of my keyframes. If I want to save this graph, just go over here, press on the star, and basically it just says save as preset, just like that. And then I can just call it like a fast middle, press OK, and then you see it'll just show up right over here. And so yeah, just like that, I can just go and highlight my keyframes, press apply, and it'll apply it to my layer. Alright, so for our fourth plugin, this one is also a pretty cool one, and this one is especially for if you're editing, I guess, a music video or an edit that uses or has music in the background, and you need to basically add an effect, or like let's say zoom in or add like a shake effect or something specifically to a beat in that song. This plugin is basically super helpful for you, because what you can do is, let's say we have this song. So if I wanted to edit to the beats of the song, I'd basically have to like press L twice, go to the keyframe, to the waveform, and then basically wherever I see a big jump, I basically like add a marker, let's say, and then to each of these jumps, and then basically add my effects at these markers. Now, yes, it's not that bad, but I have to do it for the entire song. And so like, let's say you can see over here, I have 5 seconds, and I basically have to add like at least 10 to 20 markers onto my song. Now, a faster way to do this, which is using this plugin, is all I have to do is go up here, add this plugin just like that. And so this plugin is called Beat Maker by SYFX96. Again, guys, all of the plugins are in the description below, so you guys can check it out. And also, yeah, this is technically a script, not a plugin, but we'll just call it a plugin. So to use this plugin, all you have to do is just right click on your layer, on your music layer. Then you want to go up to Keyframe Assistant and then press Convert Audio to Keyframes. And what this does is, it's kind of cool. If you press U to see your keyframes, and then if you go down to both channels and press on slider, and then press up here in the graph editor, you can actually see it turns kind of the waveform turns kind of like into keyframes, so it's easier to kind of see you know, like where the beats are. And so what you need to do now is just press on your layer, and then press import comp, and then you'll have select audio layer, my music layer, and then press generate beat markers. And then just like that, it tells me beat marker generated successfully, 22 markers created. Alright, so now we can see it added all the beat markers to each beat. And so if you go here and then you see the waveform, you can see how it added the marker on top of each beat. And so it does still sometimes skip some beats. So over here, let's say there is a bit of a hump in the waveform and didn't add any beat or marker over here, so it does 90% of the job for you. You still have to go in and maybe clean it up a bit, but it still makes it way easier for you to add effects or transitions or cuts, wherever it is, to the beat of the song you have in your edit. So the final plugin that we're going to go over today is the Motion Tools plugin. This was actually one of the first plugins I actually downloaded on After Effects. To show you a quick example, I'm just going to draw make a shape, and then I'm just gonna go to Motion Tools. So let's say for this shape, I want the anchor point to be like, let's say, on the top left corner. So I can go over here, press over here, and then it'll put the anchor point on the top left corner. So let's say if I want to rotate it, it now rotates around that anchor point. And so I can choose, like, I want it on the top, I want it on the right, left, and then right in the middle. All I have to do is just press the button, and then it just does all the work for me, which is really nice. It also has a bunch of other stuff you can do, or you can use it for. So let's say, again, if I put a keyframe on position, let's move it over here, and then like 20 frames, move it over here, something like this. You can highlight those keyframes, and then basically these changes the speed of the keyframe. So over here, it makes it start slow and then end fast. So I'm telling it, let's say, if I highlight and go over here, you can see how it looks like. So it's basically ending fast and starting slow. And then let's say I highlight it again, change it back to 0, and then change this up to like 70. So this basically means it's starting fast and then ending slow. So you can see over here. And then this last one just basically makes it a middle graph, I guess. Basically starts slow and slow, but it's fast right in the middle. So if I take it up to like 80 and highlight my keyframes, you can see how it looks like, and then I can highlight it and basically creates for you this graph. Now, these I don't really use a lot. What I mostly use in this plugin is actually the sequencer. So I have like multiple shape layers, okay? and then they're all like jumbled up. Like let's say they're like this. So instead of me like fixing each one of them, all I need to do is just highlight all of them and then just press this button over here. So yeah, it just arranges the layers to wherever my header is. So if I go over here and press this to highlight, arranges them there. Another thing is, let's say I want it to be like in a specific sequence, my layers. So let's say I want it to be like, this is the first frame, second frame is the second shape layer pops up, the third frame, third shape layer pops up, and so on. So all I have to do over here is press offset 1, step 1, and then press on sequence. Well, actually before that, I need to make sure that this sequence selector is at this shape, and basically sequence starts from the bottom layer, which is what we want. And now if I press sequence, you can see if I zoom in, you have the first shape layer, then frame later, the second shape layer comes, then a frame later, and so on. So you can mess around with these numbers. So if I go over here, highlight them all, and then change like step to like 2 instead. So what it does now is if every 2 shape layers, it adds a frame. So these 2 shape layers are on the same frame, and then the next frame, these 2 shape layers pop, and then so on. And then I can also go over here, let's say change it back to 1, and then change the offset back to 2. So basically every 2 frames, it adds a new shape layer. It also can add a null layer. So just like that, just press this button and it just adds a null. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. If you guys want more videos like this, or if you want me to go over specific plugins or effects, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.